Matsya Purana Lumaharshana and the other sages. There was a forest known as Namishranya. Many years ago, several sages organized a yajna, sacrifice, in the forest. After the sacrifice was over, the assembled sages told Lumaharshana, "You have recited to us many Puranas. These accounts are so sacred that we would like to hear them once more. Please satisfy our thirst for knowledge. I will recount for you the most holy of all the Puranas," replied Lumaharshana. "This is the great Matsya Purana, told by Vishnu to Manu. Prepare your minds, for I am about to begin. Vishnu and Manu. There used to be a king named Vivaswata Manu. He was the son of the sun god Vivaswan. When it was time for Manu to retire to the forest, he handed over the kingdom to his son Ikshvaku. Manu then went to the foothills of Mount Malaya and started to perform tapasya, meditation. Thousands and thousands of years passed. Such were the powers of Manu's meditation that Brahma appeared before him. "I am pleased with your prayers," said Brahma. "Ask for a boon. I have only one boon to ask for," replied Manu. "Sooner or later there will be a destruction, pralaya, and the world will no longer exist. Please grant me the boon that it will be I who will save the world and it begins at the time of the destruction." Brahma readily granted this boon. Days passed. On one particular occasion, Manu was performing ablutions in a pond near his hermitage. He immersed his hands in the water so that he might offer some water to his ancestors. When he raised his cupped hands, he found that there was a minnow, Shafari, swimming around in the water. Manu had no desire to kill the minnow. He placed it carefully in his water pot, Kamandalu. But the minnow started to grow, and within a day, it was 16 fingers in length. "Save me, king," said the fish. "This water pot is too small for me." Manu then placed the fish in a vat. But the fish continued to grow, and, within a day, it was 3 hands in length. "Save me, king," said the fish. "This vat is too small for me." Manu put the fish in a well, but the well soon became too small for the fish. Manu transferred the fish to a pond, but the pond was also too small for the fish. Manu now removed the fish to the holy river Ganga, but even this was too small for the fish. Finally, Manu transferred the fish to the ocean. There the fish grew so much that it soon occupied the entire ocean. "Who are you?" asked Manu. "I have never seen or heard of such wonders. Are you a demon that is deluding me with its illusions?" "No, I do not think that you are a demon. You must be the great Vishnu himself. Please tell me the truth and satisfy my curiosity." Vishnu then revealed that it was indeed he who had adopted the form of a fish. He told Manu that the earth would soon be flooded with water. Vishnu had got a boat built by the gods. When the earth was flooded, Manu was to place all living beings in the boat and thus save them. Vishnu would himself arrive in his form of the fish, and Manu was to tie the boat to the fish's horn. Thus the living beings would be saved. And when the waters of the flood receded, Manu could populate the world afresh and rule over it. Vishnu disappeared, and for 100 years there was a terrible drought on earth. The drought led to famine and people died of starvation. Meanwhile, the sun blazed in fury and burned up the entire world. When everything had burned to ashes, dark clouds loomed in the sky. These are the clouds that appear at the time of destruction, and there are 7 classes of Kush clouds, known as Samvarta, Vimananta, Drona, Chanda, Valahaka, Vidyutapataka and Kona. From the clouds, rain began to pour and soon, water engulfed the entire earth. The land mass was flooded. As instructed by Vishnu, Manu gathered together living beings inside the boat. And when the fish appeared, he tied the boat to the fish's horn. What do you think Manu used? A rope. He used a gigantic snake. While the boat was thus tethered and dragged around by the fish, Manu asked Vishnu several questions. The answers that Vishnu provided form the text of the Matsya Purana. Let us start with the account of the creation. Creation. In the beginning, there was nothing in the universe. There was only darkness and the divine essence, Brahman. It is impossible to describe the Brahman. It has no traits that can be described. When the time came for creation to start, the Brahman removed the darkness and divided itself into three. These three parts came to be known as Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. The first object that was created was water, and Vishnu slept on this water. Since Nara means water and Ayana means resting place, Vishnu is accordingly also known as Narayana. In this water next appeared a golden, Hiranya, egg, Anda. The egg shone with the radiance of 1,000 suns. Inside the egg, Brahma created himself. Since he effectively created Bhuva, himself, Swayam, Brahma is also known as Swayambhuva. The egg, you will remember, was golden. Garbha means womb, and since Brahma was born inside a golden egg, he is also known as Hiranyagarbha. For 1,000 years Brahma stayed inside the egg. He then split the shell into two and emerged out. Heaven, Swarga, was made from one half of the shell and the earth from the remaining half. All the land masses, the oceans, the rivers and the mountains, had been inside the egg in embryonic form. Brahma made them manifest. The sun was also born. Since he was the first, Adi, being to be born, he is known as Aditya. The word Mritha means dead. Since the sun was born when the egg, Anda, died, the sun was also known as Martanda. Brahma's first act was to meditate. It was while he was meditating that the Vedas, the Puranas and the other Shastras, sacred texts, emerged from Brahma's mouth. 10 sons were also born to Brahma. Created from Brahma's mental powers, they all became sages. Their names were Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulastya, Pulaha, Kratu, Pracheta, Vashishtha, Bhrigu and Narda. There were others too who were born. Daksha was born from Brahma's right toe, and the god Dharma was born from his chest. But for further creation to continue, it was essential that created beings should have proper mothers and fathers. Brahma accordingly created two beings from his body, one was male and the other was female. The male half was named Swayambhuva Manu and the female half was named Shatrupa. Shatrupa is also referred to as Savitri, Gayatri, Saraswati or Brahmani. Since she had been born from Brahma's body, she was like Brahma's daughter. In fact, Vashishtha and the other sages who were Brahma's sons welcomed her as their sister. But Shatrupa was so beautiful that Brahma fell in love with her and wished to marry her. Shatrupa circled Brahma and showed her respects to him. When she stood in front of him, Brahma gazed upon her with the face that he had. But when she went and stood behind him, Brahma could see her no longer. Another head with another face therefore sprouted behind Brahma's first head so that he might be able to see Shatrupa. In similar fashion, a head sprouted to Brahma's first head so that he might be able to see Shatapa. In similar fashion, a head sprouted to Brahma's right and another one to his left. And when Shatrupa rose above him, a head sprouted towards the top as well. Thus it was that Brahma came to have 5 heads and 5 faces. Brahma married Shatrupa and they lived together as man and wife for 100 years. Their son was named Swayambhuva Manu. Hearing the account, Vavaswata Manu exclaimed, "But what you have just said is truly amazing. How could Brahma have married his own daughter? Surely that is a sin." Perhaps, replied Vishnu, but it is not for humans to judge the actions of the gods. How could creation proceed if Brahma did not marry Shatrupa? To continue with the account of the creation, Brahma created a sage named Sanata Kumara and Shiva. Brahma asked Shiva to help him in the act of creation. "Why don't you create some beings as well?" asked Brahma. Shiva complied and started to create. But all the beings that he created were just like him in appearance. That is, they were all immortal. "What are you doing?" asked Brahma. "Don't create immortal beings. Create mortal ones instead." "That I refuse to do," retorted Shiva. "If I am to create, I shall create only immortals." "Please do not create then," requested Brahma. "I will take care of creation myself." Swayambhuva Manu performed very difficult tapasya and obtained a wife named Anati. Swayambhuva Manu and Ananti had 2 sons named Priyavrata and Uttanpada. From Uttanpada was descended Prachinavahi. Prachinavarahe married Savarn, the daughter of the ocean, and they had 10 sons. These sons were known as the Prachetas. The 10 Prachetas married a woman named Marisha. That is, all of them had the same wife. Daksha was the son of the Prachetas and Marisha. Daksha's descendants. Daksha married Panchanjani. Daksha and Panchajani had 1,000 sons. These were known as the Hayakshas. Daksha asked his sons to create more living beings. But the sage Narada came and told the Hayakshas, "You can't possibly create living beings unless you know where they are going to live. Have you explored the universe that your creations are going to populate? Why don't you start out on a voyage of discovery?" The Hayakshas did this and have never been heard of since. They did not return. Daksha and Panchajani now had another 1,000 sons. These were named the Shavalas. Narada asked the Shavalas also to explore the universe and they too disappeared. 60 daughters were next born to Daksha and Panchajani. 10 of these daughters were married to the god Dharma, 27 were married to the moon god Chandra, and 13 were married to the sage Kashyapa. The remaining daughters were married to various other sages. The 13 daughters who were married to Kashyapa were named Aditi, Diti, Danu, Arishta, Sursa, Surbhi, Vinta, Tamara, Krudvasha, Ira, Kadru, Vishwa and Muni. Aditi's sons were known as the Adityas. There were 12 of them and they were named Indra, Datta, Bhaga, Twashta, Mitra, Varuna, Yam, Vivaswan, Savita, Pusha, Anshumana and Vishnu. These were the gods. Diti's sons were the Daityas, demons. There were 2 of them, named Hiranyakshipu and Hiranyaksha. Their sons also came to be known as the Daityas. Hiranyaksha's sons were Uluka, Shakuni, Bhutasantapna and Mahanabha. Hiranyakshipu's sons were Prahlad, Anuhlada, Sanhalada and Hlada. Prahlad's son was Virochna, Virochna's son was Vali, and Vali's son was Vanasura. Danu had 100 sons. These and their descendants were known as the Danvas, demons. Chief among the 100 sons was Viprachiti. Maya, the architect of the demons, was descended from this line. Tamra had 6 daughters. These were the mothers of the birds and of goats, horse, sheep, camels and donkeys. Vinta had 2 sons, Aruna and Garuda. Aruna's sons were Sampati and Jatayu. Both Sursa and Kadru gave birth to snakes, Nagas or Serpas. Krudvasha was the mother of Rakshasas, demons, Surbhi of cows and buffaloes, Muni of Apsaras, dancers of heaven, Arishta of Gandharvas, singers of heaven, Ira of trees and herbs, and Vishwa of Yakshas, demigods. The Maruts, although the gods and the demons were cousins, they did not like each other and fought amongst themselves all the time. Many Daityas were killed by Vishnu and the other gods. Diti was disconsolate to see her children suffer thus. She resolved that she would meditate so as to obtain a son who would be so powerful that he would kill Indra, the king of the gods. There was a Tirtha, place of pilgrimage, named Syamantapanchaka on the banks of the sacred river Saraswati. Diti went there and started to pray to the sage Kashyapa. She lived on roots and fruits and meditated for 100 years. These prayers pleased Kashyapa. Ask for a boon, he said. Please grant me a son who will kill Indra, replied Diti. It shall be as you wish, said Kashyapa. But there are some conditions. You will have to live in this hermitage for 100 years more. Throughout these 100 years you will bear the baby in your womb. But there are certain conditions of cleanliness that you must observe. You must not eat in the evening, nor must you sleep under a tree at night. Exercise is not permitted in any form. Do not sleep with your hair unbraided, or without having had a bath. If you can observe these rules for 100 years, you will have the son you wish for. Kashyapa went away and Diti began to observe the rites that the sage had prescribed. But Indra had got to know what was afoot, and he was naturally in no mood to permit the birth of a son who would be the cause of his own destruction. He hung around Diti's hermitage, pretending to serve his aunt. He brought her firewood and fruit and served her in other ways. But in reality, he was merely waiting for an opportunity. He was waiting for the moment when Diti would fail to observe the norms of cleanliness that had been laid down for her. 99 years and 362 days passed. That is, only 3 days were left for the period of 100 years to be over. Diti was tired on one particular occasion. Since the period of her ordeal was soon to end, she had also become somewhat careless. She fell asleep without washing her hair. What was worse, she went to sleep without having braided her hair. This was an act of gross uncleanliness. Indra seized his chance. Since Diti had committed an unclean act, her defenses had been lowered. Indra entered Diti's womb in a trice. Indra has a wonderful weapon named Vajra. With the Vajra, Indra sliced the baby in Diti's womb into 7 parts. These parts started to cry. Maruda, said Indra. Don't cry. But the parts continued to cry. Indra therefore chopped up each of the parts into 7 more sections, so that there were 49 parts in all. Since Diti had failed to observe the prescribed rites, these 49 sections were no longer a threat to Indra. When they were born, they came to be known as the Maruts from the words Indra had used in addressing them. They were elevated to the status of gods and became Indra's friends and constant companions. The Manvantaras. Each Manvantara is an era and is ruled over by a Manu. One of Brahma's days is known as a Kalpa, and there are 14 Manvantaras in every Kalpa. At the end of every Kalpa, the universe is destroyed and has to be created afresh. In the present Kalpa, 6 Manvantaras have already passed and the 7th Manvantara is now current. There will be 7 more Manvantaras in the future before the universe and its inmates are destroyed. The gods, the 7 great sages, Saptarshis, and the individual who holds the title of Indra, change from one Manvantara to another. The 14 eras of the present Kalpa are as follows. 1. The first Manu was Swayambhuva. The gods then were the Yams. 2. Swarokisha was the second Manu. The gods were the Tushitas and the names of the 7 great sages were the Toli, Chyavna, Stamba, Prana, Kashyapa, Aurva and Brihaspati. 3. The third Manu was Uttama. The gods were named the Bhavanas and Kukurundi, Dalbaya, Shankha, Pravana, Shiva, Sita and Susmita were the Saptarshis. 4. Tamas was the fourth Manu. The 7 great sages were Kavi, Prithu, Agni, Akepi, Kapi, Jalpa and Dhimana and the gods were known as the Sadhyas. 5. The fifth Manvantara was ruled over by a Manu named Ravta. The gods were the Abhutrajas and the 7 great sages were Devavahu, Suvau, Pajanya, Somapa, Munti, Hiranyaroma and Saptashva. 6. Chakshusha was the 6th Manu. The gods were known as the Lekhas and the 7 great sages were Bhrigu, Sudma, Viraja, Sahishnu, Nala, Vivaswan, and Atinama. 7. The 7th Manvantara is the one that is now current and the name of the Manu is Vavaswata. The Saptarshis are Atri, Vashishta, Kashyapa, Gautama, Bharadvaja, Vishwamitra and Jamdagni. The gods are the Sadhyas, the Vishwadevas, the Maruts, the Vasis, the 2 Ashwinis and the Adityas. 8. The 8th Manu will be Savarni and the 7 great sages of this era will be Ashwatthama, Sharadvan, Kaushika, Galava, Shatnanda, Kashyapa and Rama. 9. The 9th Manu will be Rauchya. 10. Bhautya will be the 10th Manu. 11. The 11th Manu will be named Meruswarni. 12. Rita will be the 12th Manu. 13. Ritdhama will be the 13th Manu. 14. The 14th and final Manu will be named Vishwakesena. Prithu, a king named Anga, was descended from Swayambhuva Manu. Anga married Sunita, the daughter of Mrityu, and they had a son named Vena. Mrityu was an evil person. From his childhood, Vena associated with this maternal grandfather of his and thus came to acquire evil ways. When Vena became king after Anga, he started to oppress the world. He stopped all yajnas and the prayers to the gods. He insisted that people should pray only to Vena. The sages did their level best to persuade Vena to return to the righteous path, but Vena would not listen. The sages then killed Vena. Vena had no sons and a kingdom does not flourish in the absence of a king. Therefore, when Vena was dead, the sages started to knead the dead body so that a son might be born. The first being that emerged as a result of this kneading was a dark and dwarfish son. All the evil that was in Vena's body entered the body of this son so that there was no more evil left in the dead body. When the kneading continued, a handsome son was born from Vena's right hand. He was born fully grown and held bows, arrows and clubs in his hands when he emerged. His entire body was clad in shining armor. The word Prithu means great. Since the son was born after a great deal of effort, he was given the name Prithu. The sages made arrangements for Prithu's coronation. Prithu was a good king who ruled well. But Prithu's subjects still did not have the wherewithal to make a living. They asked their king to do something about this. Prithu decided that since the earth was not providing any food grains, he would kill the earth. The earth adopted the form of a cow and started to flee. Wherever the earth went, the king followed in hot pursuit. The earth finally realized that she could not escape by running away. She told Prithu, "Please do not kill me. then your subjects will not even have a place to live in. Your object is to find a means of living for your subjects. How will that be accomplished if you kill me? Milk me instead of killing me. The food grains that the milking will yield will provide the sustenance for your subjects. Prithu accordingly milked the earth. It is because of this that the earth is known as Prithivi. Prithu also leveled out the earth with his bow so that his subjects could live in the plains thus created. The earth prospered during Prithu's rule. Poverty, disease and sins were unknown. Everyone was righteous. The solar line. The sages requested Lumaharshana. Please tell us the history of the solar line. Lumaharshana complied. Aditi and the sage Kashyapa had borne the sun god, Vivaswan or Surya, as a son. Surya had 3 wives, Samjana, Rajni and Prabha. Rajna had a son named Revatha and Prabha had a son named Prabhata, morning. Surya and Samjana had 2 sons and a daughter. The eldest son was Vavaswata Manu, and the remaining 2 offspring were twins named Yam and Yamuna. The sun's radiance was however too much for Samjana to bear. After a while, she could not bear it any longer. She therefore created a woman out of her own body. The woman looked exactly like Samjana and was named Chaya, shadow. There was no way of telling the 2 apart. Stay here and pretend to be me, said Samjana. Look after my husband and my children. No one will know the truth unless you tell them. As for me, I am going away. Surya did not realize that Samjana had left. He took Chaya to be his wife, and Surya and Chaya had 2 sons and 2 daughters. The sons were Savarni, Manu and Shani, Saturn, and the daughters were Tapti and Vishti. Chaya was clearly fonder of her own children and neglected Samjana's. This did not bother Vavaswata Manu too much. He was the eldest and more collected and balanced. But Yam resented this favoritism of Chaya's. In a fit of petulance, he raised his foot to kick Chaya. Chaya cursed Yam. I curse you that your foot may be devoured by worms, she said. May it be infected with pus and blood. This alarmed Yam and he rushed to his father. My mother has cursed me, he told Surya. I am only a child. Even if I did commit a sin, does a mother ever curse her children? I have serious misgivings that she is not our mother at all. When Surya taxed Chaya with this, she came out with the truth and Surya learned that Samjana had left. Samjana's father was Vishwakarma, the architect of the gods. Surya went to his father-in-law to find out if he knew anything of Chaya's whereabouts. Indeed, I do, replied Vishwakarma. When Samjana left your house, she came to me in the form of a mare. But I refused to let her live in my house, since she had left her husband's house without seeking his permission. She is living at the moment in the desert. But Samjana did what she did because she could not bear to stand your energy and radiance. If you permit, I shall shave off some of the excess energy, so that people can look at you. Vishwakarma shaved off some of the sun's energy. With the excess energy were constructed many of the weapons of the gods, such as Vishnu's chakra, a bladed discus, Shiva's trident, Trishula, and Indra's vajra. This made the sun's visage much more pleasant and bearable. The only parts of Surya's body that were not thus modified were the feet. No one can bear to look at Surya's feet, and it is forbidden to visualize the sun god's feet when one is praying to him. A person who does not follow this injunction is a sinner and is made to suffer from leprosy. Surya now went to look for Samjana and found her in the form of a mare. He too adopted the form of a horse and joined her. As horses, they had 2 sons. Since Ashv means horse, The sons were known as the Ashwanis. They became the physicians of the gods and were also known as Nastya and Dasra. After the Ashwanis were born, Surya and Samjana gave up their forms of horses and returned to their usual forms. What do you think happened to Savarni Manu? He went away to perform tapasya, meditation, on Mount Sumeru. He is destined to be one of the future Manus. Shani became a planet and Yamuna a river. As for Tapti, she too became a river, Tafai. Yam had been cursed by Chaya that his feet would rot and be infected with worms. To mitigate the effects of the curse, Surya gave Yam a bird which ate up all the worms. Thereafter, Yam went to a tirtha named Gokarna and started to pray to Shiva. For thousands of years he prayed and eventually managed to please Shiva. Shiva granted Yam the boon that he would be the god of death. He would mete out punishments to sinners in accordance with the sins, papa, that they had committed. He would also keep account of the store of merit, punya, that righteous people accumulated. Vavaswata Manu ruled as Manu. He had 10 sons. The eldest was named Ila. The other sons were named Ikshvaku, Kushanabha, Arishta, Drishta, Narishanatha, Karusha, Shayati, Parishadra and Nabhaga. The solar line owes its origin to Ikshvaku. In this line was born King Bhagiratha, who brought the sacred river Ganga down from heaven. Further down the line was Dashratha and Dashratha's son was Rama. You know about Rama from the Ramayana. Ila and the lunar line Vaiswaswata Manu's eldest son was Ila. When Vavaswata Manu became old, he retired to the forest. Ila was appointed the ruler in his place. Ila set out on a voyage of conquest and travelled throughout the world. There was a forest named Shavana, frequented by Shiva and Parvati. Shiva had decreed that any man who entered the forest would become a woman. King Ila did not know about this rule and set foot in the forest. Inadvertently he immediately got transformed into a woman. What is going to happen to me now? Thought Ila. Where will I live? He even forgot all about his earlier life. The moon god, Chandra, had a son named Buddha. While Ila was wandering around, Buddha came upon her and fell in love with her. The two had a son named Pururava and Pururava was the ancestor of the lunar line. Meanwhile, Ikshvaku and the other brothers had started to look for Ila. When they could find no trace of their brother, they asked the sage Vasishtha if he knew of Ila's whereabouts. Vasishtha used his mental powers to find out what had happened. He asked the princess to pray to Shiva and Parvati. That was the only way to make Ila a man once more. The prayers pleased Shiva and Parvati and they found out what the princess wants. But what you desire is quite impossible, they told Ikshvaku and his brother. Ila can never be made a man once again. At best, we will grant you the following boon. Ila will alternate between being a man for 1 month and a woman for 1 month. The princess had to be content with this. As a woman, Ila continued to be known as Ila. But as a man, he came to known as Sudyumna and had 3 sons named Upkala, Gaya and Haritashva. Daksha and Sati. I will now tell you about Daksha and Sati. Lumaharshana told the sages. Daksha had a daughter named Sati who was married to Shiva. Daksha did not like his son-in-law at all. When he organized a yajna, he did not invite Shiva to attend the ceremony. But Sati went to the ceremony, although Shiva had not been invited. Why did you not invite Shiva? Sati asked her father. Because your husband is undeserving of such honor, replied Daksha. He is not fit to be treated on par with the other gods. These words angered Sati. I am ashamed that I am your daughter, she said. Cursed am I that I have had to hear such abuses of the great Shiva. I no longer wish to be your daughter. I will therefore give up this physical body that I owe to you, by immolating myself. As for you, I curse you that you will be born on earth as the son of the 10 Prachetas. You will then try to perform an Ashwamedha Yajna, horse sacrifice. But Shiva will destroy the ceremony. Daksha tried to pacify Sati. Please have mercy on me, he said. You are the mother of the entire universe. How will the universe survive if you die? It is only through your good grace that you condescended to be born as my daughter. Please do not forsake me. What I have said cannot be negated, replied Sati. But I will grant you this much. When you are born on earth, you will continue to be devoted to me. Where will I pray to you? Asked Daksha. At what tirthas? And what are the names by which I will address you in the course of my prayers? Sati then told Daksha 108 of her names. She also told him the names of 108 tirthas at which she was known by these respective names. These names and tirthas are as follows, with he names being given first and the tirthas second. 1. Vishalakshi at Varanasi. 2. Lingadharini at Namisha. 3. Lalita Devi at Prayaga. 4. Kamakshi at Gandhamdana. 5. Kumuda at Mansa. 6. Vishwakaya at Ambara. 7. Gomti at Gomanta. 8. Kamacharini at Mandara. 9. Madotkat at Chaitraratha. 10. Jayanti at Hastinapura. 11. Gauri at Kanyakubja. 12. Rambha at Malyachla. 13. Kirtimeti at Ekmara. 14. Vishwa at Vishweshwara. 15. Puruhuta at Pushkara. 16. Margadeni at Kedara. 17. Nanda at Himalaya. 18. Bhadrakarnika at Gokarna. 19. Bhavani at Sthaneshwara. 20. Vilva Patrikat at Vilva. 21. Madhvi at Sri Shaila. 22. Bhadra at Bhadreshwara. 23. Jaya at Varahashaila. 24. Kamla at Kamlalalya. 25. Rudrani at Rudrakoti. 26. Kali at Kalanjara. 27. Kapila at Mahalinga. 28. Mukuteshwari at Makata. 29. Mahadevi at Shalagrama. 30. Janapriya at Shivalinga. 31. Kumari at Mayapuri. 32. Lalita at Santana. 33. Utpalakshi at Sehesraksha. 34. Mahotpala at Kamlaksha. 35. Mandla at Gangetira. 36. Vimla at Purushottama. 37. Amogakshi at Vipasha. 38. Patala at Pundavradhana. 39. Narayani at Supashwa. 40. Bhadrasundari at Vikuta. 41. Vipula at Vipula. 42. Kalyani at Malalyachla. 43. Kotavi at Kotitirtha. 44. Sugandha at Madhavana. 45. Trisandhya at Gudesharma. 46. Ratipriya at Gangavara. 47. Shivananda at Shivkunda. 48. Nandini at Deviktata. 49. Rukmini at Dwaravati. 50. Radha at Vrindavana. 51. Devki at Mathura. 52. Parmeshwari at Patala. 53. Sita at Chitrakuta. 54. Vindhyavasini at Vindhya. 55. Ekavira at Sahyadri. 56. Chandrika at Harichandra. 57. Aroga at Vaidyanatha. 58. Maheshwari at Mahakala. 59. Abhya at Ushnetirtha. 60. Amrita at Vindhyakandara. 61. Mandavi at Mandavya. 62. Swaha at Maheshwapura. 63. Prachanda at Chaglanda. 64. Chandrika at Makranda. 65. Varoha at Someshwara. 66. Pushkavati at Prabhasa. 67. Devmata at Saraswati. 68. Mata at Sagra. 69. Mahabhaga at Mahalaya. 70. Pingeleshwari at Payoshni. 71. Singhika at Kritashucha. 72. Yashaskari at Kartikale. 73. Lola at Utpalvata. 74. Subhadra at Shonasangama. 75. Lakshimat at Siddhapura. 76. Angana at Bharatashrama. 77. Vishwamukhi at Jalandhara. 78. Tara at Kishkindyachla. 79. Pushti at Devdarubna. 80. Medha at Kashmir Mandala. 81. Vimedevi at Himachala. 82. Pushti at Vishweshwara. 83. Shuddhi at Kapalmochana. 84. Sita at Malvarohana. 85. Dhwani at Shankudhara. 86. Dhriti at Pendara. 87. Kala at Chandrabhaga. 88. Shivakarini at Achhudatira. 89. Amrita at Vena. 90. Urvashi at Vedrivina. 91. Aushadhi at Uttarakur. 92. Kusholaka at Kushavdvipa. 93. Manmatha at Hemkutha. 94. Satyavadini at Mukutha. 95. Vandanil at Ashwatatha. 96. Nidhi at Kuberlaya. 97. Gayatri at Veda Vedana. 98. Parvati at Shivasanidhan. 99. Indrani at Devaloka. 100. Saraswati at Brahmanmukha. 101. Prabha at Suryabimba. 102. Vaishnavi at Maitrigana. 103. Arundhati at Satismukha. 104. Tilottama. 105. Brahmakala. 106. Shakti. Having recited these names, Sati immolated herself. She was later reborn as Parvati or Uma, the daughter of Menka and Himalaya. She was remarried to Shiva. As for Daksha, he was born on earth as the son of the 10 Prachetas. Brahmadatta. There used to be a sage named Kaushika. Kaushika had 7 sons named Swasripa, Krodna, Himsra, Pishuna, Kavi, Vagadushta and Pitrivarti. These sons all became disciples of the sage Garga. After Kaushika died, there was a terrible drought on earth. Famine raged and people went hungry. Garga had asked his disciples to tend to his cattle, and the 7 brothers had taken the cattle to the forest so that they might browse on the grass that grew there. The brothers suffered so much from hunger that they decided to slay one of the cows and eat it. Killing a cow would be a sin, remarked the youngest. If we have to kill the cow, let us at least perform its funeral ceremony. Perhaps that will reduce the severity of the sin that we are committing. The other brothers agreed to this. The funeral rites of the cow were observed. It was then killed and eaten. The brothers returned to Garga and told him, "A cow has been killed and eaten by a tiger." Garga saw no reason to disbelieve them. But the sin remained a sin. And as a consequence of having committed a crime, the brothers were born as hunters in their next lives. But they were born as Jatismaras. That is, they remembered the incidents of their earlier lives. Since the brothers remembered what they had been in their earlier lives, they saw no reason to live as hunters. They therefore fasted until they died. They were next reborn as deer. But the deer continued to be Jatismaras and fasted to death. The brothers were reborn as birds. 4 of the brothers continued to be detached from material pursuits and spent their time in meditation. But the 3 remaining brothers were not so lucky. The king of Panchala had once come to the forest with his retinue. The king's name was Vibraja. One of the birds was struck by the king's pomp and glory and wished to be born as a king in his next life. King Vibraja and 2 ministers with him and all the soldiers seemed to be following the instructions of the ministers. Accordingly, 2 of the birds desired to be born as ministers in their next lives. The one who wished to be a king was born as Brahmadatta, King Vibraja's son. The 2 who desired to be born as ministers became Pundarika and Suvlaka, the sons of the 2 ministers whom they had seen. The remaining 3 brothers were not attached to material pursuits and were born as Brahmanas, the first of the 4 classes. Brahmadatta married Kalyani. You will never guess who Kayanti had been in her earlier life. She had been the cow whom the brothers had killed. What was most remarkable was the fact that Brahmadatta could understand the languages of all living beings. Brahmadatta and Kalyani were once taking a walk in their garden. Brahmadatta heard 2 ants conversing. Since he could understand the languages of all living beings, he could follow what the ants were saying. "Why are you angry with me?" asked the male ant. "Why are you refusing to speak to me? Go away and do not pester me," replied the female ant. "You say you love me very much. And yet, when you got some grains of sugar yesterday, you gave them to another ant and not to me. I refuse to speak to you. "That was my mistake," said the male ant. "I thought that it was you to whom I was giving the grains of sugar. I will never make such a mistake in the future. Please pardon me and smile. I cannot bear to see you so angry." The ants made up. The conversation made Brahmadatta laugh. Kalyani naturally wanted to know why Brahmadatta was laughing, and the king reported the entire conversation to his wife. But Kalyani refused to believe her husband. "How can any man understand the language of ants?" she wanted to know. "You are lying. You must have been laughing at me." Brahmadatta tried to convince his wife, but Kalyani would not listen. The king did not know what to do. But while he was sleeping, he dreamt that Vishnu appeared before him and told him to wait till the next morning. Brahmadatta's mind would be set at rest then. 4 of the brothers had been born as Brahmanas. They had been born as the sons of a Brahmana named Sudaridra and were named Dhritimana, Tatvadashi, Vidyachanta and Tapotsuka. Since they were born as Jatismaras, they remembered their earlier lives and had no desire to tied down by material pursuits. They wanted to retire to the forest and meditate. But Sudaridra tried to restrain his sons. "How can you do that?" he asked. "How can you retire to the forest to meditate? Your duty is to look after me in my old age. If you do not look after, I shall starve to death." "Please do not commit that sin. You will not starve to death," replied his sons. "Go to King Brahmadatta and ask him for wealth. He will give you gold and villages. Tell him to remember the sage Gaga, the hunters, the deer and the birds." The 4 sons went away to the forest. Sudaridra came to meet the king. He met the king on the day following Brahmadatta's dream. Sudaridra's words reminded Brahmadatta of what he had been in his earlier lives. He was ashamed that he had forgotten those incidents and had become addicted to material pursuits. He decided to join his brothers in the forest. He gave Sudaridra as much wealth as the Brahmana wanted and handed over the kingdom to the prince, Vishwaksena. The brothers Pundarika and Suvlaka also accompanied Brahmadatta to the forest. It was thus that Kaushika's 7 sons eventually attained salvation. There is one thing we do not understand, said the sages. How came Brahmadatta to understand the languages of all living beings? That is easily explained. Replied Lumaharshana. King Vibraj had prayed to Vishnu that he might obtain such a son, and the boon was granted. Chandra and Buddha, you forgot to tell us how Buddha was born, remarked the sages. Nor did you tell us anything about Chandra's birth. Lumaharshana filled in the blanks. The sage Atri was Brahma's son. Atri once performed very difficult tapasya. A tremendous amount of energy was released as a result of this meditation, and the moon god, Chandra or Soma, was born from this energy. Brahma appointed Chandra ruler over all stars, planets and herbs, Orshadhi. 27 of Daksha's daughters were married to Chandra. These were the nakshatras, stars. Chandra performed a Rajasuya Yajna, royal sacrifice, and the ceremony was an outstanding success. Bt all this success. But all this success and glory went to Chandra's head. The preceptor of the gods was the sage Brihaspati, and Brihaspati's wife was Tara. Chandra's eyes fell upon Tara and he forcibly abducted her. On several occasions Brihaspati asked Chandra to return Tara, but the moon god would not listen. A terrible war then raged between the gods and demons over Tara. The gods fought on Brihaspati's side and the demons aided Chandra. Shiva also fought on the side of the gods. As the war raged, Shiva let fly a terrible divine weapon named Brahmashirsha at Chandra. Chandra countered this with another terrible divine weapon named Somastra. These 2 weapons of destruction threatened to burn up the entire universe. Brahma decided that it was time for him to intervene. Stop this nonsense at once, he told Chandra. What you have done is most improper. Return Tara at once. These words ashamed Chandra and he returned Tara. But Chandra and Tara had already had a handsome son named Buddha. Buddha became very skilled in the handling of elephants. In fact, the knowledge of tackling and handling elephants goes back to Buddha. You already know that Buddha married Ila and that they had a son named Pururava. Pururava and Urvashi. Pururava was a very strong king who ruled the earth well. He performed 100 Ashwamedha Yajnas. The 3 goals of human life are dharma, righteousness, artha, wealth, and kama, that which is desired. These 3 goals wished to see which of them Pururava revered the most. They therefore adopted human forms and came to visit Pururava. Pururava treated them with utmost respect and gave them golden seats to sit on. He offered them all sorts of offerings. But in the process, dharma received more of the offerings than artha and kama. This angered artha and kama. You will be destroyed, artha cursed Pururava. You will go mad over Urvashi, kama cursed Pururava, but dharma blessed Pururava. You will live for long and you will never deviate from the righteous path, he said. Your descendants will rule forever. Having thus cursed and blessed Pururava, dharma, artha, and kama disappeared. On one particular occasion, Pururava was driving his chariot through a forest. He suddenly found that a demon named Keshi was abducting an Apsara, dancer of heaven. This Apsara was none other than Urvashi. Pururava defeated the demon and rescued Urvashi. He restored her to Indra, the king of the gods. Indra was delighted at this act and Indra and Pururava became friends. The sage Bharata taught mankind how to sing and dance. To celebrate Urvashi's return, Indra asked Bharata to stage a performance. As artists, Bharata chose 3 Apsaras. They were Menka, Urvashi and Ramba. Menka and Ramba danced as they should. But Urvashi was attracted by King Pururava and kept looking at him. The result was that Urvashi fell out of step. This angered Bharata and he cursed Urvashi that she would have to spend 55 years on earth. On earth, Urvashi married Pururava and they had 8 sons named Ayu, Dridayo, Ashwayu, Ganyu, Dhritamna, Vasu, Shuchividya and Shatayu. Yayati. In the lunar line there was a king named Nahursha and Nahursha's son was Yayati. Yayati had 2 wives, Sharmishtha and Devyani. Sharmishtha was the daughter of Vrishpava, the king of the Danvas, demons. And Devyani's father was Shukracharya, the preceptor of the demons. Devyani gave birth to Yadu and Turvasu and Sharmishtha gave birth to Druhaye, Anu and Puru. Yayati ruled the world extremely well for many years. He performed many yajnas. But eventually he grew old. The problem was that although Yayati grew old, he was not yet tired of sensual pleasures. He still desired to savor the joys that the world had to offer. Yayati told his 5 sons, "Because of Shukracharya's curse, an untimely old age has come upon me and I am not content with what I have savored of life. I request one of you to give me his youth and accept my old age in return. When I have sated myself with worldly pleasures, I will take back my old age and return the youth. Except for Puru, the other 4 sons flatly refused such an exchange. They had no desire to part with their valued youth. They were thereupon cursed by their father. As for Puru, he said, "Please accept my youth and be happy. It is my duty to serve and I will gladly take upon me your old age." For 1,000 years Yayati savored the pleasures of the world with Puru's youth. 8,000 years were not then enough to satisfy Yayati. He accepted his old age and returned Puru's youth. He blessed Puru for his obedience and announced to the world that Puru was his only true son. Puru inherited the kingdom after Yayati. His descendants were known as the Pauravas. It was in this line that King Bharata was born. It is after Bharata that the land we live in is known as Bharatavarsha. The sages interrupted Maharshana. "You are going too fast," they said. "What is this curse of Shukracharya's that Yayati referred to? You have forgotten to tell us about that." "I will," replied Maharshana. "But first, let me tell you about Kasha and Devyani. Kasha and Devyani, the gods and the demons, fought with each other all the time. Brihaspati was the preceptor of the gods and Shukracharya was the preceptor of the demons. Shukracharya knew a wonderful art known as Mrita Sanjeevani. This was the knowledge of bringing back dead people to life. Since Shukracharya knew this art, the gods were in a terrible fix. Any demons whom the gods killed were promptly brought back to life by Shukracharya. But Brihaspati knew no such art. So any gods that the demons killed stayed dead. The gods pondered about this problem and finally arrived at a solution. Brihaspati had a son named Kasha. The gods told Kasha, "Go and become Shukracharya's disciple. Try to learn the art of Mrita Sanjeevani from him. Shukracharya has a beautiful daughter named Devyani. Try to curry her favor so that your task may become easier." Kasha went to Shukracharya. "Please accept me as your disciple," he said. "I am the great Brihaspati's son. I will serve you faithfully for 1,000 years." Since no mention was made of Mrita Sanjeevani, Shukracharya gladly agreed to this proposition. Kasha lived with Shukracharya and served his guru, teacher. He became friendly with Devyani and Devyani started to fall in love with Kasha. 500 years passed. The demons got to know that Kasha was Brihaspati's son. Since they hated Brihaspati, they hated Kasha as well. Kasha was in the habit of taking Shukracharya's cattle to the forest to graze. When Kasha was alone in the forest, the demons seized their chance. They slew Kasha and fed his body to the tigers. In the evening, the cattle returned home alone. Kasha was not with them. Seeing this, Devyani told her father, "The cattle have returned home without Kasha. I am certain that someone has killed him. I am in love with Kasha and cannot survive without him. Please do something. Do not worry," Shukracharya told Devyani. "I will bring Kasha back to life with the art of Mrita Sanijivani. As soon as Shukracharya recited the magical mantra, incantation, Kasha appeared before them, hale and hearty. Days passed. Kasha went to the forest once more, this time to pluck flowers. The demons killed him again. But this time they burned the dead body and mixed the ashes in a goblet of wine. They then served the wine to Shukracharya to drink. When Kasha did not return, Devyani again told her father, "I am certain that someone has killed Kasha. I cannot survive without him. Please do something." Through these powers, Shukracharya discovered what had happened. He told his daughter, "We have a real problem on our hands. Kasha is inside my stomach. I can revive Kasha by summoning him through Mrita Sanjeevani. But in the process, he will have to tear asunder my body and I shall die. Tell me, beloved daughter, which do you want? Either Kasha or your Fateh will live. I refuse the choice. Replied Devyani. Both you and Kasha must live. I cannot survive without either. Shukracharya then decided that there was only one way out. He addressed Kasha, who was inside his stomach, and taught him the words of the Rta Sanjeevani mantra. He then recited the words himself and out came Kasha. Shukracharya's body was torn apart and the sage died. But Kasha had learned the words of the mantra. He now recited them to bring Shukracharya back to life. Kasha thus learned what he had set out to achieve. After spending 1,000 years with Shukracharya, he prepared to return to heaven. "Where are you going?" asked Devyani. "Do you not know that I am in love with you? Please marry me." "I am afraid that I cannot do that," replied Kasha. "You are my guru's daughter. Therefore, you are my superior just as my guru is my superior. I cannot marry you. Moreover, I have spent some time inside his body. And when I came out, it was as if a son had been born from him. You are therefore my sister. How can I possibly marry you?" Thus spurned, Devyani became very angry. "You are playing with words," she said. "I curse you that although you have learned the art of Mrita Sanjeevani, it will prove to be of no use to you. You have needlessly cursed me," retorted Kasha. "I too curse you that no Brahmana will ever marry you and that you will never get whatever it is that you wish for." If you enjoyed this audiobook, please like and subscribe to be notified of when new audiobooks are uploaded. Thank you for listening and learning. Shanti.